looking, but there's only room for 9.
Started and let Mr. Wood, Mr. Ingram make their presentation to us.
You're gonna put the one to the right.
Right.
I'm gonna get his name.
John didn't lay out there.
This is not a very lengthy PowerPoint presentation. This is not very lengthy, but this will just give us some background. Remember that we actually, when people talk about, quote, adopting the budget, we're actually adopting a whole host of budgets, and those include general fund, cemetery, confiscated assets, hotel, motel, SPLOST 5, still has some money left in it, SPLOST 6, road and sidewalk fund, impact fee fund, water and sewer fund, stormwater fund, sanitation fund, municipal court fund. So we'll be adopting all of those ultimately. The purpose today was basically just to present to you some preliminary background information. It's not intended to be decisive or conclusive, but basically to let everybody start thinking about some things, some challenges and some issues. And hopefully to come away from this meeting with some schedules for some work sections where we will go into greater depth and detail on the budgets, and then an adoption schedule which will need to be adopted, the budgets will need to be adopted prior to August 31st to meet the conditions of our charter. Today we're just going to focus on the general fund. Our FYE 2013 budget amount, that's the budget that we're under today. That's the budget that will end September 30th. That general fund budget amount is $10,700,344. It does include a contingency amount of $300,000, an unassigned fund balance that we had as of September 30th of 12. That amount was $2 million plus or minus. We budgeted to use out of that fund balance, out of that $2 million, we budgeted to use $600,000. We have not used it, but that was the budgeted amount. The FYE 13 budget, again, that's the budget that we're under today, which expires the end of September. A mill was equivalent to about $660,000. And the FYE 2013 millage rate as of today is 6.8. For lack of a better term, and let me interrupt myself by saying how much I appreciate Mr. Cummins has been with us through several budget discussions already and has been very insightful and helpful. And Nathan, I just can't say enough about how hard Nathan works. Nathan's very, very instrumental in all of this, and he's really the person that makes it all happen. And I appreciate very much his work ethic and his contributions. We've used the term status quo for lack of a better term, but meaning if we took the 2013 budget and basically carried the primary components with some variations, but carried the primary components of the 2013 budget over into 2014, that budget, which would be balanced, would be $10,259,100, which would represent a decrease from FYE 2013 of $441,000, or about a 4.12% decrease. And that's not a pure transition, but it's a basic transition. Mr. Cummins, you and Nathan agree with what the way I'm trying to say it. The 2014, quote, balanced status quo, unquote, budget includes or assumes a contingency of $300,000. An unassigned fund balance, we predict, Nathan predicts, that as of September 30th will be in the $2,200,000 range. That FYE 2014 mill is we believe will be equivalent to about $670,000. And our natural digest growth, that's not new construction, that's natural digest growth, we believe will produce about $150,000 plus or minus in new revenue. Now, what's not included in that status quo budget? This is not everything. This is not everything. These are some key components that are not included in that status quo budget. The operations and maintenance costs for Etowah Park, which will be coming online sometime during the spring. Our health insurance premiums, we expect to increase about 10% this year. That's about a $70,000 number in and of itself. Several of you have asked that we include cost of living adjustments across the board, 3% cost of living adjustments. Those are not included in the status quo budget. Comparative salary adjustments, we have asked the ARC to look at some of our current salary levels, and we don't have that information back yet. We hope we would have it before the end of June. We don't have that yet. But outside of cost of living, with just comparative salaries, we don't have any of those adjustments programmed into this budget. Over $1 million in requested additional human resources and equipment upgrades. And we'll go into this in much greater detail because I'm sure you'd have $1 million worth of questions about what that means. We'll disclose all of that and discuss all of that in whatever detail you think is necessary and appropriate during the work session. But understand, again, for purposes of background, that $1 million is not included in the status quo budget, nor are any new fire station staffing and operating and maintenance costs. The balanced status quo budget does require $1,100,000 plus or minus in debt service from SPLOST 6 for the YMCA and the City Hall, which was previously paid from SPLOST 5 funds. And that concludes the background data that we were going to give you today. We do want to distribute some draft copies of budgets. I cannot underscore or emphasize this enough. This is strictly draft data. Just draft data. Will require a huge amount of thought. Camille, in case somebody needs to ask a question, leave that up there. Just in case anybody had a question about anything we said there. We'll distribute those. Let's just see if there's anything on the PowerPoint that wasn't clear that requires any additional information. Nothing?
You made a comment, something about natural.
Digest Road.
Yeah, what define that?
I think the assessors, and the mayor can speak to this better than I could, I think the assessors usually define it, Bob, as new growth and natural growth. New would be new construction. Or modification, somebody adding a room onto a house or whatever. Natural growth would be just kind of what occurs as a result of the market. It would be market driven.
If my house was valued at $200,000 and the next valuation is $210,000, that's natural growth.
And you hadn't done anything to it, that would be natural growth, yes, sir.
But now, even if you have done something to it, if you did something to it prior to January 1st,
Right.
of 2012, it's in there, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In other words, that's based on what the tax assessor telling us in terms of digest. Any other questions about that? Wanted you to understand that if we maintain the status quo, basically, that we still don't have $1 million worth of improvement of human resources and equipment improvements or upgrades. We don't have Etowah Park maintenance, we don't have fire stations, we don't have all those other things in there.
A question on natural growth, is that, to come up with that 150,000, is that just a national average, or is that based on what we get from a digest already?
The latter of those. Yes, sir.
And then, new growth is not in there.
No.
I'm not sure what you mean by new growth.
That would be the total increase in the digest, and I probably should not have tried to make that distinction. That'd be what the tax assessor tells us we should expect in digest growth. And really, it ought to include new and natural.
When does the hospital kick in?
When it's constructed.
When it's finished, or not before?
Right.
And we won't get any money there until like January, that we tax it following January once they finish up, yeah.
So Scott, that natural growth does not include a new house being built?
It would include it that it was already built and would be on the tax record by the end of the year. Yeah, I said that in a confusing fashion.
If it was built before January 1st, 2012, it's on that digest. Should be.
Right.
Do we
But
have?
let me tell you, the takeaway there simply ought to be this, without getting hung up on the distinction between new and natural, and I apologize for that. The takeaway ought to be that it looks like we would have about $150,000 new dollars as a result of growth, period, in the digest.
I have one question, and if this gets into too much level of detail, just tell me, don't answer it, because I don't want to get bogged down. But on the operations and maintenance of Etowah River Park, do we have an estimated figure?
We suggested that because most of our maintenance costs are going to be summertime maintenance costs, growing season costs, that we look at contracting that out as opposed to hiring additional staff members. And we've got a preliminary contract budget number of in the $50,000 a year range. If we contracted out basically the grass cutting and basic maintenance at Etowah Park of around $50,000.
Would we include Heritage in doing that?
We could go back and include Heritage, yeah, but right now that's being maintained by our current staff.
So that's gonna be all the costs there will be, maintenance of,
No, that won't include utility cost, no, that $50,000 number.
just cutting the grass.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Lights is estimated, I believe, at 12,000. So you'd have another 12,000 for all of electricity. And that was based on 6 months, because initially what was presented, if I might make that statement, was hiring people to do that. And I said, if you hire people, you got them 12 months. Why don't, since we're not, park probably won't be active until April 1st, why don't we look at a 6 month from that standpoint and see what that does in terms, and look at contracting it out, which reduced the total cost actually. Because on an annual basis, if you hire on an annual basis, it's significantly more in-house than the, say, contracted out.
Okay. So we're around 50,000 and then 12,000, 62,000, 65,000.
And then you'll have some other.
There'll be others taking care of the restroom.
That's
Yeah,
right, that's
trash
right.
pickup.
Trash.
That's not in
All
there.
that'll be 12 months out of the year, right?
So we're figuring on doing that with our existing employees.
We're still down about 6 from where we were in 2009. We do have in that $1 million, we do have 1 or 2 additional park personnel. One of the things that I suggested that Ken and Jimmy look at was if council gives us another employee, dedicating one to downtown. And because right now, downtown is being maintained when crews can come through, so to speak. They've got the whole city to cover, so they're out in the hinterlands of the city, and some issues is surfacing that needs to be addressed downtown. It may be, it's either a logistical problem or it may be days before they get downtown.
So we're still short 6 employees from what we had 5 years ago on the streets and stuff.
So your human resources, if that's what you're talking about, is bringing in additional personnel
Yes, sir.
for different departments.
Yes, sir.
Not identified in a particular department.
They'll be identified when we go through the budget, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Basically, public works and police are where the additional personnel are being requested.
When we go through the budget.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Nathan has done a good job of articulating all that, so all that will be laid out.
One thing you might state on the additional police that have been requested, there's a revenue offset pretty close to the total amount of requests. One of them is what is it, HDITA, which is a drug undercover and everything. And it's estimated that our confiscated assets revenue recovery will increase to offset the cost of manning that person. That was based on the chief's estimate of what it would have been this year, and we had that. And using a conservative number going forward, that person would be covered by additional revenue. The The same is true, I believe the only other two are those part-time parking meter, or not meter, but part-time parking civilian employees, and their, that cost was gonna be offset by additional process of ticketing that we're not doing now.
That's assuming we got drugs in this city.
Well, now it's a statewide program.
It actually is a region.
And I heard they were up in your neck of the woods. What street are you on?
It is a regional task force. We do expect the parking study consultants to come back with some recommendations on increased parking. So, don't know how much, but we do expect that based on some preliminary.
And they started their study.
They have started their study, yes, sir.
All right, David, pass it.
Now, one of the things that we're gonna have to spend a lot of work on, or some significant work on, in addition to the general fund, of course, is the water and sewer fund. You know, we're borrowing $7.5 million for the sewer plant upgrades. I can tell you, within the last 60 days or so, I've been called out at night. Bill, I saw you at one, and I saw the mayor at the other one. And I don't know what time that was, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I don't even know what time it was. Where we've had significant infrastructure problems, where we've had to replace pipe that just ruptured. Had nothing to do with cold weather, had nothing to do with natural phenomena that we know of. But we just had ruptured pipes. In both cases, pipes split. And that's, and my point, I guess, is that we've got some infrastructure challenges that our water and sewer fund is to anticipate in addition to sewer plant upgrades.
Don't buy any more Chinese pipes.
I've got friends in China, appreciate it.
Those were put in before we.
Those are bamboo pipes.
But we will need necessarily to spend some time on the water and sewer fund. And in a way, I think it may behoove us to get started on that one as soon as we can, because if we're going to anticipate rate adjustment, the water and sewer fund rate adjustments effective October 1, and we want to give prior notice to the public to be prepared for them, the sooner those adjustments are identified and can be publicized, the fairer I think that is.
Those are downward adjustments, I assume, where lower the rates.
Right, yeah.
We're gonna make sure that that announcement comes out before the election.
Adjustments.
So everybody has an opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Okay. Ms. Cummings, we'll start back with Ms. Dawson on the recurring. Okay, these are take-homes. I mean, if y'all want to stay, I'm prepared to stay as long as you want to.
Well, I thought we were gonna go through and look at it, trying to get it.
We can stay as long as you want to stay and answer whatever questions we can answer. I know I said this, let me repeat it. This is very, very preliminary. This will be massaged and changed a whole lot, I'm sure, before adoption time. But this is a working starting point.
And then the next question is, August 31st, if we gotta have this done by, you talked about having some meetings. What are you looking at for the meetings?
Is this just the general fund, or just all of it?
No, that's everything. We want to I asked Camille to pull up the calendar. We do need to talk about, meeting day. Is that as big as it'll get, Camille?
We can save right here with all this gold.
Go back to July. Now, one of the issues, and I wish we had thought about bringing you a sort of calendar of steps that we've got to take. If we're going to approve a millage rate increase, I'm taking that for granted, but if you are, that's got to be part of an ordinance, and you know how long an ordinance requires. The budget itself is an ordinance, but we've got to publish that rate increase notice in the newspaper prior to the first meeting. So, work sessions need to start happening as soon as possible, I guess.
Well, can we, as long as we're all here, do a part or something that we're gonna have to do later?
We Ken, I'm wondering if before we get into that, if we ought not talk about work session schedules, because some people may want to stay longer than others, some people may have other obligations. So if we can agree on some work session schedule dates so that coming out of those work sessions, we can communicate to the media what our public notice requirements are, so we can be sure to meet them.
Let me ask you a question, if I may. I notice it looks a little odd when you say that FY13 general fund budget was 10.7 million, FY14 was 10.2 million. It looks on the surface like, hey, we're lowering our budget to be able to lower our millage rate. What millage does this reflect at the 10.2 right now? What is the millage that would be reflected in order to achieve that?
8.
Okay, same millage will reflect that amount. Okay. But another thing is that it's really not, we may be decreasing the budget in general fund.
Right.
But that's because we're using some funds that were in the general fund last time. Are we using other funds to pay, we're using sales tax funds to pay some debt that we used last year from the general fund? Is that?
From the general fund or the prior funds?
Yeah, I'm thinking the general fund, I think it's plus 5. Yeah.
Okay, now tell me why the general fund went down then. What are we not doing, or what are we doing that would reduce that general fund budget?
For example, there's some vehicles for the police department to purchase 60 vehicles. There's nothing in the fiscal year 14 budget yet. We'll go over a list, but there's nothing in there yet for the replacement schedule of vehicle assets.
Last year, the millage rate was 6.8. This year, the millage rate is 6.8. But we've got a lower general fund budget this time. Somehow or another, I'm missing that exactly.
Well, you compare the budget to budget. What we should probably be doing is comparing the budget of 14 to the actual projected of 13 to get a better perspective, rather than budget to budget. Because if we didn't spend that whole budget in 13's budget, it doesn't really mean much.
No, and I think that's a good point,
Yeah,
and that's probably the way to look at it, because that is the case.
That is.
I mean, I got
That makes sense.
if Nathan agrees with roughly with what I got here, I could throw out some of those numbers to give a comparison. If you want me to. We never sort of nodded head close or whatever it is.
The only thing we'd have to be careful about that, in doing that, is we would only be 2/3. Some of those numbers reflect anticipated expenses, but we're still 4 months. Those numbers would
Yeah.
still be 4 months away from the end of the fiscal year. Most of them, 3
Yeah.
to 4 months. So there'll be some changes there.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a couple $100,000 off, we don't know.
But aren't we pumping back in the excess revenues? We're pumping back in part of the excess revenues over our budgeted expenditures. Pumping it back into the general fund, right?
Well, this doesn't put it in there. As far as what you're saying is the unassigned balance, that leaves it alone.
Correct.
Before you go to,
That's correct.
this is looking at what I looked at was actual expenditures. And I massaged it a little, and then I looked at what our actual status quo expenditures would be going forward, and not worrying where the cash came from or where the monies came from. If you look at it, if you look at the status quo, projected was like $9.888 billion actual expenditures. And I took out of that what I call the one-offs. The one-offs were all the vehicles, everything that was a one-time expenditure that we were not including in the going forward. And that was $586,000. Those were just expenditures in 2013 that we would maybe repeat in 14 and maybe not. That brought you down to 9,301,000 actual projected. Then I took out of that the debt service that we supported in 2013, and that reduces you to actual government operating costs around 8.6 million for 2013. Then I started with their status quo budget and did the same thing. I took off the debt service that was projected in 2014, and you get a status quo comparison of almost 9.6 million. There's a difference between the growth in the status quo, which would include insurance, I believe it included insurance at that time, of around $957,000. So that's the actual increase from estimate from 13 to 14.
That number what?
957,000 just to stay even with general operating costs.
Mr. Wood? Yes, sir. The, I guess we'll call it the wish list you had up there.
Right.
With the cost of living or the adjustment and the human resource and all that, have no numbers to it. Okay, so automatically taking those items that are critical, then what we should do is start saying, we're gonna have a millage increase, and we're gonna have to post it. Now, you give us the target dates that we gotta have that by, so that we can get it done in time, because we will have a millage increase.
Part of what we need to do, and I appreciate you saying that, and we do want to leave here at least before we get too much detail, to agree on some subsequent meeting days. But in order for us to post a millage rate increase, assuming that that is going to occur, we need some indication of what that increase will be, because that actual increase amount has to be included in the ad.
That's correct. But to just say right now, are we gonna do it or not? We're gonna do it. We're gonna have a millage increase. Over here on page,
Could we not just say,
One,
put
two, three.
a bigger number and then
I see
when
where
we
we,
finally come up with a number that might be less?
Yes, sir, I think you can do that.
Think you can just guess it?
Well, I think what he's saying is just establish a number and then work back from that. I guess what
Yeah.
you're saying.
well, right here, I see where under merit increase, or merit pay request, and then down here it says, fire department, 3 employees. Is that 3 on top of the 9 we're bringing in?
Yeah, I don't understand this request group.
You on a numbered page or not on a numbered page?
It's not enough, it's not enough pages, about 4 pages in, 3 pages,
He's
4
looking at
pages
the
in.
things not included, the list of all those extras.
Okay. That's the million plus is not included.
Oh, we got 6 in there, and now we're adding 3 more, is that the reason?
Well,
Well, I thought we were looking for 9.
we got 9. We're gonna have 9.
No, those gentlemen, those are, if you go to the right, look at 8,125, the fire department has requested for 3 firefighters to have what I quoted as merit pay increases, but I think,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
those are not for 3.
oh, okay, so, okay. All right, so,
The 9 new firefighters that have been discussed are not included in,
Any of this?
yes, sir, correct.
well then, that's the reason we really need to get this work sessions going, because we will have a millage increase.
So if we approve everything that was requested, that's $1.3 million, and then we'd have to take the fire and add it on to that number.
That'd be another $500,000 plus or minus, not,
So
yeah.
you're talking about $1.8 million.
To hire the 6 firefighters, I'm sorry, 9, and we're not building any fire stations because we don't need it, right? And we all agree on that.
So we got
Let's not have-
$1.8 million. What kind of millage increase will that require?
Well, bill worth $680,000, so 2 3/4. Yeah, I think we'll go.
So we put out a notice, that's gonna be the maximum, and then we just start cutting back. Then we come in less.
That's what we've done for 15 years. Cut back, cut back, cut back.
No, we
And we're
put it,
sitting
no.
here talking about water
No,
busting and talking about all this other stuff.
No, take the 1.3 million that's requested, right here, but you've got everything in it. And you add on top of that 1.3 million, $500,000 for the fire people. That's $1.8 million. Follow me? Follow me? I'm asking John.
Yes, no.
On the list of all the requests, this page here, John.
Yeah, they just said that 3 employees is looking for a cost of living increase. It did say anything about the 9.
Well, that's what I'm,
Yeah, right.
so now we take the $500,000 and we
Add
add
it to the 1.3.
and then we equate that to millage,
Yeah,
which is 2 3/4.
you're right.
All right, so we put the ad out saying 2 3/4 mil increase, but in essence, doing what we're gonna do during this next couple of weeks is we're gonna par it down to where it's not that high.
What the newspaper is gonna say is that city council is considering a 45% property tax increase.
Don't say that.
Yeah, no, I'm being rhetorical, but
That's what they did with the compensation. 300% increase. Last time I checked, you don't take percentages to the bank.
Now you deposit dollars.
That's right.
So,
you know, let me make a suggestion. Because again, what we wanted to do today was just begin to give you some food for thought. That you take this and look at it and digest it, and if you've got questions, you can call Nathan or me, and we'll do our best to answer them. Nathan's really the most versed of anybody on both of these issues. And then come back the next work session and program and get into as much detail as we can.
really to look at the problems. If you go back a few years when everything was rocking and rolling up here, and then we had many exemptions put in, which I appreciate because I paid 0 taxes to the city of Canton. That's not the way it should be today. We should have more people paying into it, like myself, to where we spread that, whatever that 2 3/4, spread it out to more paying citizens, to where, in essence, the millage rate comes down. Not below the 6.8, but it won't go up to the 2 3/4. Our problem is an inherent problem that we inherited over the years, and those giveaways were maybe good at the time, and we could afford to do it because real estate property taxes were going up. That paid for a lot of sense, but now in these day times, we need everybody participating.
Well, there is a way that we can do that. And we can discuss it privately before it becomes public. There is a way that we can adjust the tax base so that we can do just what you said.
Does anybody else have a feeling on that?
Well, there's also a way you can do it, which is above board, you don't have to discuss it private.
Oh, we want to.
And that is, you know, you can have a referendum and let citizens vote to change what they implemented by a vote in the late 90s. I mean, you can't say that I'd be for it, but, you know, I mean, I could say that that would be the proper way to change that. We're talking about the senior exemption.
But you know, Mr. Mayor, yes, that would be the problem.
Well, you have to get
But we had 93% on the last election, 93% of the people did not vote. 93% did not vote. That's not a good measure. We are elected to represent various areas of the city. by the citizens. We were elected to make those decisions. Then let's make the decision and quit trying to avoid transportation. Yeah, we're gonna get beat up on. I don't care. I know the three of you don't care, and I don't care. I know he doesn't care.
Well, let me, since Mayor suggested this, talking in private, something clandestine, I'll bring it out in front. We've established the city of Canton as a fire district. It's still there.
Yeah.
So we can take $2 million out of the general fund, which is what we spend on fire, right? And assess a fire tax in the amount of whatever it takes, the 2 million or whatever we need for the fire department. That gets applied across the board. Millage rate will say, will be reduced by 2 mil or roughly 3 mils, so that we can add back whatever else needs to go in here. So the millage rate will still go down. Everybody will pay a fire tax, including the seniors, will pay something, rather than trying to increase the millage rate 45% and have everybody else get stuck with the bill. So that's one way to do it.
It's a fair way to do it.
Is that not still going to increase the millage rate when you add it all together?
It will increase, but you're gonna spread it amongst more people. In other words, you
No,
probably won't have to go up to
the millage rate
quarters.
won't increase.
You might,
The millage rate will not increase.
The general fund millage rate won't.
The funding of the overall taxation will increase, it's going to increase anyway.
So the cost to the homeowner is obviously going to increase.
now what, and some more than others, because I'm starting out at zero. So all of a sudden I get a bill for, let's just say fire,
160.
$160, so I'm going from 0 to 160. But that's, that's not a problem. Seniors right now are the ones who can afford it more than the young people who've got kids, they don't know whether they have jobs, they got house notes, they got car notes. That's the people, and that's where we're putting the burden on.
I agree with you.
Let me offer a suggestion.
Can I ask Mr. Ingram to address what that suggestion is to spread, let's just assume that it's 2 3/4 millage rate increase, and we spread it amongst all taxpayers or property taxpayers or whatever.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking
One
one
senior exemption, you can't say that you spread a general millage increase among all the taxpayers.
Well, how many exemptions do we have?
About 1,200, 1,300, something like that.
It amounts to about $90,000, $80 million, I'm sorry. Which that translates to about $80,000 to $90,000 per meal. If you, in the scenario, just to give you some numbers, if you remove $2 million from the general fund for the fire operations, you set up a separate fire fund, and you're going to fund that fund just via a fire tax digest, you need $2 million. No changes, but actually no changes. You need $2 million to fund that. The millage, the gross digest before exemptions is about 770 million. So that would, one meal would be 770,000. So you need just under 3 meals on that digest.
But some of that would be backed out of the 6.8 that we already have.
That's correct.
And $2 million at $676,000 per meal is. So in other words, you would subtract 3 and add 2.8 on fire.
Right. Right. So, sure. And yeah, I foresee that is a problem. I do think it would be a problem if it came out and said we would get property taxes going up 45%. And they're gonna be yelling at me, and I'm sitting back saying, I don't have that problem. My property tax doesn't go up $1.
Now, the first issue,
That ain't right.
first issue that we have to address is whether we need 9 firefighters.
that's the first issue. Maybe I don't know.
Well, even if we did, let's just make the assumption that the city is going to give the fire department to the county, because what you've been advocating for a long time. The county would assess a fire tax, but not to the city, which is 3.39 mils, which amounts to $2.4 million, right? So the city would have to pay that anyway. And it would have to come out of the general fund if we don't use the fire tax.
Yes.
I mean, the concept, forget the night, the concept of moving to a fire district, what it does is it redistributes the cost and makes seniors pay more. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. is it
Pay more.
redistributes-
It makes
Every day, not more. Pay.
Make
All
some
right,
pay.
all right, whatever. Semantics. It redistributes it. Then that could be a decision you want to make.
It makes everyone pay equal.
Which what it really amounts to is about 45 cents a day, and, that's less than the price of Coca-Cola. So is it worth your house price of Coke? Boil it down to $1.
Now, the question is, how do you determine what that amount is, though? How do you determine it? Because you can't really use, because we get back to the problem of using the millage rate. I mean, even if I say, hey, that's a great idea, you can't use the millage rate because the way the referendum on the senior exemption is they're exempt from those things that are ad valorem. So you can't use an ad valorem method, in my opinion, for a fire district.
County does.
Yeah, but they don't have that, they don't have the.
That was voted in too. They voted for that. They didn't just make it up.
Now,
It was
again,
voted in.
Mr. Mayor, if this got voted in, if I recall, 'cause I researched that, when that village exemption for seniors, I think it was less than 400 votes on that.
Could be, I mean,
No, that's
well,
the-
so what, are we afraid to put this out before the people? That they won't vote for it, or they will vote for it?
I heard
Isn't it
this-
their decision after all?
I heard
Very
this
end?
the last time we got into this conversation.
Well,
You
I
wanted to
know,
have the referendum, and the referendum failed with 7% of the vote.
but that is the people's decision. If they wanna go
Yeah,
vote, they need to go vote.
Yeah. I agree, but now we're,
I'm not advocating the vote, I'm just saying that that would be the proper way of getting around, instead of figuring out some scheme or some method of getting around
I don't
senior
want,
exemption.
I'm not trying to get around, I'm trying to take it head on.
Well, if you wanna take it head on, then you change the decision that they made in 1996, whatever it was.
That'd be fine with me.
And let them, the people have that decision. If they wanna do that, they can do it. If they
I
don't-
just say it, today's set of circumstances is entirely different. And it's, we as a body are elected officials to do that, and make those hard decisions, whether we get beat up or lose our positions, whatever it is, that if they don't like it, vote us out.
Well, here's the issue that I see. The same people that voted for the referendum, i.e. mostly seniors, are the ones that elected you. So are we saying let's throw all four of us out? Because that same voting population that voted for the senior exemption also voted for us, so our validity is not there?
Bring up a good point.
I mean, it's the same. Certain people vote and certain people don't.
I understand, and your point is well taken. I'm not gonna argue with that. I am arguing the fact that we do have a situation that confronts us all. There's a financial situation that we've got to address.
Well, the referendum will lose. I mean, I don't have
Yeah,
any
I think
problem
it
with
will
the
too.
referendum. Seniors are gonna vote to give themselves the tax breaks. They're the ones that voted it in, they'll
Yeah,
confirm it. If you give it away to the county, like you wanna do, then the seniors will pay. So that's one scheme that would work to make the seniors pay their fair
No,
share.
they won't, because the county wants to build the city,
City,
and the city's gonna have to collect.
Yeah,
It's a shell game.
they don't wanna do it.
Because they don't want to do it, but they did it in the other cities that the fire department gave away, the Holly Springs. They made the seniors pay. And I mean, why in the world why in the world would we give the fire department, give up total responsibility for any fire protection and then continue to collect the money and just pass it through to the county? That would be just completely counterproductive, stupid. And, I mean, that'd be the dumbest, most irresponsible thing any
That's what I call a
elected official could do.
scheme and getting around.
That's a scheme right there. That's a scheme. You want to talk about a scheme? That's a scheme. That's a scheme right there. Give it all away. We absolve total responsibility for fire protection, but we're still going to collect the money and then pass it through to the county without even skimming off a little profit. Nothing. That's dumb. But that's what
You don't
you
give
know, some
away,
people
you
would
don't
like to
give
do.
away public safety,
No.
police, fire. If you want to outsource some of the other things, I don't have a problem.
You hit the point right there. Public safety, that's what we were charged with when we were elected. Who elected us? I don't know. I don't know if it was 90% seniors and 10% people just stumbled into the election booth. I believe people came. I believe people elected us, and that's what our job is. And I think what we should do is to seriously look at this fire district. It's on the book, it's been a set, and let's say, now, ever how you want to call it, you can't call it ad valorem, you can't call it whatever, but we sure can make it feed. We can do it. And it's just a matter of having the stamina to step up and do it, not worried about politics. Politics gets into this thing, and then you have a losing battle. And that's what we have. And I say, Nate, let's look and see what it would take to run that.
See, the other, if we follow if we were able to work out something with the county, if we were, all it is a short-term fix.
Right.
It's just a short-term fix. We're coming out of this economic situation. It's a short-term fix, and a few years down the line, we'll regret that we ever did. The mayor of Woodstock says the last thing you'd ever do is give away the public safety.
But you know, another thing is the referendum was fraught with misinformation. That's what, misinformation. People, a number of people came up and said to me, hey, I voted against because we want to keep our fire department. I said, you read it wrong. The little place cards that were mailed out, all the crap was sent out, misinformation. So those poor people thought they were voting for a fire department support program, found out that they didn't. So what percentage of that group? So it was a bogus program to start with. We have an obligation, we should live up to it.
So, Mr. Woods, what do we do now? Do you want to,
We want to adopt it.
you want to leave?
Well, yeah, I do, but I wasn't going to. Thank you. I'd like for us to agree on some work schedule dates so that we can keep this process moving, get into as much detail as you want to.
The first work sentence.
And Nathan and I can come out of that with some advertising information. The meetings in, the council meetings in August, the regular dates, I think are 1 and 15. Is that right?
Right, that's right.
Yeah, one, August is 1 and 15. So if we,
I can't make 15, if that's okay.
well, we've got still 2 more weeks before the end of you got 22 and 29 that are both Thursdays in August that you could meet, if it meets the mayor's approval with, for call meeting for adoption. But I was just looking in terms of work session dates, if we could go ahead and start, say on Tuesday and Wednesday, lunchtime range of next week.
And do Tuesday.
Can't do Tuesday,
Then with Tuesday, that's the, what,
it'd be
16th?
the 16th.
And we'll do it any time.
What about Wednesday?
Got it.
Can you do any of these in the evening or not?
Sure, we can, yeah. We need to.
Not that that matters, but I
It's just
can
better
do-
staff wise.
I can do next Monday at noon, but I can't do Wednesday at noon.
Okay, what about Monday the 15th?
Monday the 15th.
Yeah, Monday the 15th. Monday next week.
Oh, next week.
Yes. Talking about 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I have to look at my calendar, which I have at home now. since I don't have any help
You
here.
need to carry that in your pocket.
It's about this big. I'm getting old, I have to have glasses.
You got one of these now?
Why don't you get a man purse?
Something like yours? That's
Well,
maybe a good idea.
Maybe we should have asked everybody to
All right.
take the calendars today.
7:15.
15?
15th.
Well,
15th June.
12.
All right, and then we come out of that meeting with a subsequent meeting date if you want to, but the main thing is to go ahead. What about, so we can advertise, what about Wednesday, the 16th?
What, that's Tuesday.
I'm sorry, Wednesday the 17th, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Monday 15th and Wednesday the 17th,
yeah.
Are those voting in me?
if that's okay, yeah.
Well, I'm not for sure. So I'll just say-
Just tell me what you want.
Depends on what we're having for lunch.
No, it's probably going to be an evening.
We'll do whatever everybody can do.
What was that second day of the meeting?
Wednesday the 17th, Monday the 15th and Wednesday the 17th.
What do you want to do it Wednesday evening?
Well, that's, like I say,
Because
I'm working.
Jack, you know, the first one is going to be a bunch of argument. The second one should be a little bit more nailed down.
Yeah, let's do Wednesday. Can we do Wednesday
At 5?
5 o'clock?
Okay, Wednesday the 15th at noon and I'm sorry, Monday the 15th at noon, and Wednesday the 17th at 5 p.m. Is that okay? Everybody? Monday the 15th at noon, Wednesday the 17th at 5. And Jill, we'll get Camille to get y'all a formal notice, but if you,
Would you give me a call a couple hours prior?
yes, sir?
If it would,
Yes, sir.
would you guys have a number for us that if we look out fire department out in the budget, just have a number that would say, here's what we run for the fire department, and what we have to have in way to use the word right
Would it
now,
work, Nathan,
for a better word.
if we took all fire department calls out of the general fund, calculated what the fee would need to be to raise those dollars distributed citywide, all inclusive, no exemptions. What the new budget number would be for the general fund, what the millage rate would be for the new budget, with all that out.
Actually, they may
Still
be
got all
using
the
that
other
this year
stuff
to
that's
get
not
rid of
in
their other
there.
millage
That's
rates.
what you want, right?
And just make sure we have nine.
Keeping our bill, it's like.
Right, well, we know that's.
No, we could,
So,
well,
so,
no, we'll be keeping it the same.
Have all the stuff you
No,
got
not if
right.
we had 9.
Make sure we got the
I
nine.
know, but I'm saying,
And have that
the
understood.
rest of the village.
As a side,
Running
We
the
would
rest
move
of the-
2.88.
and what that would be
General fund.
as a fee based on.
And then whatever you added on top of that.
okay.
Same thing. Why not
We've
do
gone
it?
for one bill, 5 years.
What's that?
Hey, we only got one time, one bill, right?
You went up to 2009.
Since we've been here, one time.
How much would go up? Your copy?
Probably less than me.
But the other question is how much revenue you lost as a result of not, just to get the new crowd.
We went from 5.9 to 5.8.
Going good.
Monday at noon.
Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, Monday at noon and Wednesday at 5. Okay.
Next place. I don't like to get anywhere else.
I guess we're adjourned.
Well,
Their charge.
I told Ann.
Are you sure?